Welcome to Impact, the show that covers various topics of interest in the arts, government, education, community, and entertainment arenas in and around the capital region. Next is the government segment, of which I am the host, Nick Barber, and I'll be talking about property tax assessments and what to do now that Grievance Day has passed. Grievance Day was on May 22nd, so if you filed, we'll discuss what will happen at this point on, and if you didn't file, we'll talk about how you can prepare for next year. If you have questions regarding property tax assessments and assessment grievances, you can contact me at 518-374-8821. That's 518-374-8821. Hi, this is Nick Barber, your host for Impact. And today on the government segment, I'm not going to have a guest, as I mentioned one time before. I will be my own guest. So I'm going to talk about a government segment issue, which is property taxes. A real thorn in people's sides, a real tough issue, one of the biggest concerns of taxpayers throughout New York State. We've talked before about Grievance Day and how to challenge your property tax assessment. As you know, Grievance Day is passed. That was May 22nd. Each year it's the fourth Tuesday in May. But we'll talk about now, if you haven't filed, or if you did file, what happens next. You probably know property taxes are a huge issue in New York State. It's probably the number one issue. I'm going to refer back to some statements made by some of the candidates at election time. I'm not going to mention the candidates, but talking about the importance of the issue. I'll go to some of the literature. Cannot afford your taxes, tired of the crime reports, neighborhood needs cleaning up. It starts out with taxes. Over the past 8 years, Schenectady taxes have nearly doubled. That's one. And here's another one, different candidate, and it's timely. Cut property taxes, the issue. That's number one on the literature, so that families and businesses can afford to live and work in Schenectady. Another one refers to property taxes on the issues. Stop huge tax increases. In the last 8 years, property taxes for the Schenectady homeowners have nearly doubled, making the city one of the highest taxed in the country and causing property values to decline. And then, of course, the candidates make promises, and some of them won and some of them didn't win, and hopefully they'll come through with their promises. It's a very difficult job as a public official. I don't envy it. I was a public official myself for many years, and these are tough times. Another literature piece says, lower taxes, stop huge tax increases. Again, in the last 8 years, combined property taxes for Schenectady homeowners have nearly doubled. Another one, a major candidate, Schenectady taxes have risen 107%. So there's a lot of claims about taxes. Now, property taxes can be controlled in many ways, and the easiest way is spend less in the budget. It's just like your household budget. The more you spend, the less you have. And if you spend more than you have a deficit, you have a problem. You're going to have to raise money, get a second job. You're going to have to raise revenues or cut back. The government can't get another job, but they can look for different revenues, but they always try to hold the property tax rates down, and it's a tough challenge. But let's get off of what the legislature or the city council or the town boards or the county legislature does about taxes. What can you do about property taxes? We talked before about filing a grievance. May 24th was Grievance Day, and if you didn't make it, say you didn't make it. A lot of people didn't. It's a fatal date. That was the deadline. If you didn't make it, what you do is start preparing for next year right now. Don't wait until the last minute. Procrastination is a thief of time. I used to say that to one of my daughters when they were in school. Don't wait, nip it in the bud, take care of it now. And I even put it in the center of her little telephone. We used to have dial phones in those days. And I put it right in her phone. Procrastination is a thief of time. So every time she used the phone, she had to look at it. And I guess she learned, they're both very successful, my daughters, and very intelligent. But don't wait. Start preparing for next year. And how do you do that? Go to the assessment rolls, visit the assessor's office. You can go online, whether it's the city or the county has an image-made system. The city and other municipalities, the towns have their assessment rolls posted, and start doing some research and start comparing your assessment to others. How do you determine if you're assessed fairly? I mean, just because you complain or file a grievance on your property taxes doesn't mean you're going to win. You have to have a case. You have to be unfairly assessed. How do you determine that? Well, assessors, they don't determine your property taxes. That's important to know. Don't blame your taxes on the assessor. I sort of feel for the assessors because it's a very difficult job, but the assessor's job is merely to discover, list, and value properties. They put an assessed valuation on your property. Then once that assessment roll is determined and finalized and it becomes the final roll, then it's up to the legislative body, the city, the county, the towns, to come up with a tax rate based on the taxable assessed values. Of course, the higher taxable assessed values in a municipality, then the more tax revenue there is. So the less, hopefully, need for any tax increases. But remember, the assessor doesn't increase your taxes or affect your property taxes. They value your property. So if you feel if your assessment accurately reflects your market value, but you still feel your property taxes are rising unfairly, you might want to address the matter with the taxing jurisdiction. School board, the county legislature, city council, even special districts like fire districts and water districts. The assessor cannot assist you with tax matters, but only with matters pertaining to the assessed value of your property. So how do you determine that? Say you already filed. Hopefully you went in and you did some research, you compared your assessments to other assessments on the tax roll, like properties. If you have a 3-bedroom ranch, bath and a half house, you want to compare to other properties like yours and see what their assessments are. That's one of the bases of a complaint. It's called unequal assessment. Unequal assessment is when you compare your property to other like properties on the assessment roll. Say, hey, mine's assessed at 150, and there's 2 other ranches just like mine, and they're at 100,000. What's up with that? So then you do your research, and you bring in your complaint, and you bring that before the Board of Assessment Review. The other basis is excessive assessment. That's probably the most used one. That applies to both residential and commercial properties. Excessive assessment is when your assessment is, your house is valued at a higher value than the actual market value. Assessments aren't always exactly equal to market value, but it's a guide. It should reflect somewhere in the range of full market value, the assessment roll. So how do you prove that? You go get an appraisal. You might have a contract of sale, an arm's length transaction. It can't be a distressed sale like a foreclosure or an interfamily sale or a matrimonial or something, a divorce where people sell their property at a lower market value than the actual market value. But the best proof on excessive assessment is an appraisal. Yes, you have to pay for an appraisal, but it's an investment. You go in with a good appraisal, and I'm not talking about a letter that says, John Jones, I'm a real estate broker, and I think the property is worth X. It's got to be an appraisal that's recognized by the board and maybe by the courts or a hearing officer eventually from a certified, New York State certified qualified appraiser with 3 good comparables on residential. Commercial, they might use even more. So that's your proof. But grievance day is over, so now what happens? You filed, you might have done excessive assessment or unequal assessment. Now you wait. You filed your complaint, you got a receipt, you either appeared or you didn't appear, and incidentally, according to the Gazette, there were 673 tax challenges filed in the City of Schenectady this year. In the past, they're anywhere from 2 to 500. But few of the owners bothered personally to present their case to the board. So when you file, you don't have to appear. You can submit your information and have the Board of Assessment Review make their decision based on what you submitted without appearing. Or you can go before the board and you can argue your case in front of them. You don't get a lot of time, but you do get an opportunity to present your case to the board. So if you get rejected, on a residential property, you'll get a letter, a decision from the Board of Assessment Review saying whether you get a lower assessment or not. Incidentally, if you get a lower assessment and you're not happy with it, you can still go on. There's another step, another remedy. Or if you're totally denied, and you get no reduction, you can go to Small Claims Assessment Review. After you get that decision, and after July 1st, when the final roll is certified by the assessor, you can go to the county clerk's office, get a form, a complaint form or a petition form for Small Claims Assessment Review. There's a $30 filing fee, and you file for a Small Claims Assessment Review at the county clerk's office. And you have to give copies to the city clerk and the county treasurer, and there'll be instructions on it, but it's a $30 filing fee. That will give you the right, if you have a 1 to 3 family owner-occupied property, to go before a hearing officer. The hearing officer is appointed by the state of New York and trained and qualified through the Office of Court Administration. The hearing officer is not a local resident, usually, sometimes it is. Could be a lawyer, could be a realtor, could be an architect, but it's somebody familiar with real estate values. So you have a hearing that would be a little longer. You might get up to 30 minutes or even more if it's a complex case. At the Small Claims Assessment Review hearing, you can amend your petition, you can add more information when you get there, but it's important to know that you have to file at the Board of Assessment Review first. If you didn't do that, you can't go to small claims. Now in commercial, I only got a minute or so left, commercial's a little more involved and a little more technical. Commercial, if you're denied by the Board of Assessment Review on a commercial property, you have to go to Supreme Court and you have to get what they call an index number. It's about $395, and file for an action called an Article 7 action of the real property tax law, tax certiorari. And then you would go to court. Hopefully you don't have to get to court, but you could negotiate with the municipality on your commercial property and make your arguments before the city and the assessor at a pre-trial hearing. I'm not an attorney and I don't give legal advice, so in this case, on tax certiorari's, I highly recommend you consulting an attorney. So that's the quick and easy one. You can email me at impact@proctors.org if you have other questions, Nick Barber, impact@proctors.org, and I'll try to answer those questions. But remember, you can get your tax bill lowered if you're assessed unfairly, legitimately after you do your research, and that will ultimately lower your tax bill. So that's one way to lower your property taxes. I'm Nick Barber for Impact, and we'll see you next time. Thanks for watching. Remember, we here at Impact want to hear from you, so contact us by email at impact@proctors.org. Give us your ideas and suggestions and comments. Also, you can like us on Facebook. Go to Facebook and go to Impact Show and click on like.
Proctors, bringing the best in arts, education, and entertainment.